By 2035, France's economy has collapsed. While people still vote for their politicians, the truth is that big corporations control everything now because they've bought the country's debt. 15 million people are unemployed and living in homeless camps under the Eiffel Tower. Riots and protests become part of the daily routine, especially when the corporations pass reforms in their favor, deregulating many industries. The most scandalous one is the legalization of human experimentation and performance-enhancing stimulants, which transform athletes into their guinea pigs in exchange for sponsorships and easier wins. Any person is free to sell their body however they want as free trade. Reda arrived in France when he was 10 years old and the land was still prosperous. Nowadays, unfortunately, he's another victim of the system and works as a cage fighter under the stage name Ares. He used to be among the best ones and received all kinds of sponsorships, but one day, he accepted a deal on an experimental stimulant that gave him a stroke. It's been 10 years since then, and now he's just another low-ranked fighter that nobody will pay for. To earn some extra cash, Reda sometimes accepts to work for Altman, a cop that occasionally hires enhanced fighters when riots get too rough and they need extra security. It's during one of these riots that Reda notices Altman making a deal with a mysterious big man. He also sees his niece Anouk getting arrested for being part of the protest. Speaking of the riots, all this bad publicity is starting to worry the investors of the Donavia Corporation, so its CEO must think of something fast. Sometime later, Reda bails Anouk out of jail as announcements all over the city inform that firearms are now illegal. Reda takes Anouk back to his sister Carla, who is also working with the rebels. She and new member Boris show him that the Donavia CEO is denying any kind of problems with their stimulants and swearing that the athletes know the risk, which is a lie. Reda doesn't care though, he prefers having money to survive and stay out of trouble. Afterward, Reda goes to Altman's place to spend the night with her, thanking her for helping Anouk. Some days later, corporate executive Anna informs the Donavia CEO that their latest stimulant tests have failed and more than 10,000 are dead. The CEO orders her to use Reda, who had survived the stimulant the last time even if it gave him a stroke. The fact he isn't doing well nowadays will only make his comeback story a more powerful tale in their ads. Later in the evening, when Reda goes to see his coach, he finds Anna in the office. They want him to try Donavia's new stimulant, the HSX, because he's the only one that has survived it so far. However, Reda turns them down, not wanting to risk another stroke. Afterward, Reda stops by a kiosk to get some food, and the owner reminds him that he will indeed sell the kiosk to him if he manages to get the money. When he returns home, Reda puts today's winnings in a box with his savings. The next day, Reda bumps into Myosotis, his cross-dressing neighbor. They don't have a good relationship, exchanging insults whenever they see each other in the hallway, but at least they don't bother each other either. On his way out, Reda is intercepted by a couple of cops, who inform him Carla has been arrested for possessing an illegal gun, for which she may get 5 to 10 years. Reda goes to the station and tries to tell them the gun is his, but the detective quickly catches his lie when he can't even tell what kind of gun it was. Until this issue gets resolved, Reda will be in charge of his nieces Anouk and May, but as soon as they're out of the station, he calls Altman for help. She promises to look into Carla's case and advises Reda to lay low for now. Outside the building, Reda finds Boris, who has brought a lawyer with him and promises to have evidence that Carla had been staged. Reda asks him to speak in private and they go to the bathroom, but instead of listening, Reda grabs Boris by his hair and dunks his head in the toilet. He knows the rebels handle illegal weapons for protection and thinks Carla's been arrested because they made a dumb mistake, so he doesn't want to hear any excuses. The next day, Reda gets to visit Carla for just a minute by paying off one of the cops. Carla also swears she's been staged and Reda doesn't know what to think, but he does advise her not to get into trouble because he can't protect her here. In the evening, while Reda is making dinner for the girls, he discovers Anouk is still in contact with Boris. He forbids her from working with the rebels anymore, and Anouk throws a fit, accusing Reda of being uncaring for not joining the fight. She drops her food as a sign of protest, and Reda slaps her for it, prompting Anouk to call him violent and obedient, which makes him perfect for a cop. Then she leaves the building, and Reda worries about her in this dangerous neighborhood, so he goes to see Myosotis to ask him to watch May while he goes after Anouk. It doesn't take Reda long to find Anouk, who has been captured by a gang. At first, the teens try to look tough, but as soon as Reda easily beats up their leader, they free Anouk and run away. Reda reminds Anouk that her mother is in prison and getting into trouble will make matters worse. He also points out that to free her he'll probably need money, so if she wants her mom back she must accept how the world works. On their way back home, Reda gets a call from Altman saying she has news about Carla's case, so he drops Anouk at Myosotis' place as well. He tries to pay him for the babysitting, but he gets offended and turns the money down. Once Reda meets with Altman, he learns Carla was arrested because of an anonymous tip. They may have a chance by bribing the guards, but it'll cost Reda 100,000 and he must get it quickly before Carla is prosecuted. Seeing as he has no choice, Reda goes back to his coach and Anna to discuss the deal with the HSX stimulant. Lab helper Tyro shows him a quick test by trying a drop of the stimulant on different samples of blood, and only Rada stays unaffected. There are some risks though. The withdrawal symptoms are intense, and Rada will lose consciousness after a match, so he only has 5 minutes to win. The plan is for the coach to sign him up in the big championship while telling everyone he still sucks, allowing them to win bets by a huge margin. If Rada can bear 3 rounds, he'll be paid $120,000. Rada accepts the deal, then goes back to his building to pick up his nieces. They get along wonderfully with Myosotis, who has cameras all over his apartment because he live streams his life. The girls say goodbye, but Rada won't even thank Myosotis for the help before leaving. Sometime later, the coach is furious to discover Rada will be going against Panzer, a fighter that has had his nervous system tweaked and he no longer feels pain. No matter what Anna says, the coach thinks Rada can't win, so he'll bet against him instead on him like they had agreed. Rada decides to take a risk and use his kiosk savings for this, but since he can't bet on himself, he asks Myosotis to do it for him. The girls stay with Myosotis the night of the match too, and the Donavia CEO invites all the investors to watch the match at the company's office as a presentation of HSX. Rada enters the cage after Tyro injects him with a stimulant, his senses turned up to 11. Panzer comes after him with confidence, but Anna hadn't been exaggerating the effects of the HSX, it works so well that Rada can beat up Panzer easily, barely breaking a sweat. In fact, Panzer needs to take a second dose of his own stimulant, which never happens. It's useless though, Rada still effortlessly beats him up before his time's over. Rada wins the fight, but once the 5 minutes run out, he throws up blood all over Tyro and passes out. Anna is smug while the coach laments his poor betting choices, and the Donavia CEO gets the support of all the investors when they understand the potential military uses of the HSX. When Rada wakes up, he informs everyone this was a one-time thing only, but he changes his mind when Anna makes a juicy offer to become the face of HSX. When Rada returns home, Myosotis has already been paid the bet money, which is enough to get Carla out and still keep some in savings. Rada informs him that he'll keep fighting, which Anouk doesn't approve of. She understands having one fight to save Carla, but from now all his payments will be blood money. As days pass, Rada's face appears all over HSX advertisements, and he's also interviewed on all kinds of TV shows, which has raised the Donavia shares of 53%. Rada moves with the girls into a nicer apartment, although May doesn't like it very much because Myosotis isn't there. The day to finally free Carla comes and Rada gives Altman the money for the release, but unfortunately, Altman brings bad news: Carla died while defending new prisoners. Altman tries to give Rada the money back, but Rada tells her to keep it and discover who had staged his sister. During Carla's funeral, Boris notices Anna's presence there and begins making plans. Rada is the legal guardian of the girls, which is more reason for him to concentrate on his matches. His next opponent will be La Masse, a large man that handles his opponents in seconds. One evening, Rada's TV is hacked by Boris, who asks him to get information about Donavia's experiment victims. Rada refuses, claiming Donavia isn't his enemy, but he changes his mind when Boris shows him that the anonymous tip against Carla came from the phone outside the gym. Rada goes to see his coach, but he swears Rada is the only one using HSX. Rada's starting to get suspicious, but he says nothing for now. After dropping the girls with Myosotis again, he visits Altman, and while spending the night together, he makes her promise to make sure the girls will be safe if something happens to him. The night of the next match, the Donavia CEO and Anna watch it with the investors again, hoping to grow their shares even more. Tyron and the coach are in the office, eager to earn easy money, but when Rada enters the cage they notice something weird. The scientist that Donavia sent to take blood samples and apply the HSX isn't there with him. The match starts, but it's barely a fight at all. La Masse quickly grabs Rada by the head and hits him against the cage until Rada passes out, finishing the match in 17 seconds. The sports commentators call the HSX a hoax, the coach loses a great amount of money, and Donavia's shares quickly begin sinking. Rada wakes up a few minutes later feeling perfectly fine, and on his way out, it's revealed that Donavia's scientist is all tied up, meaning Rada never took the HSX in the first place. While the Donavia CEO sends Anna to find Rada so they can use him to calm down the investors, Myosotis picks up Rada in a car. The girls are ready to leave with the money they've made by betting on La Masse, but Rada still has some business to take care of. He asks Myosotis to take the girls and meet him later, and if he needs anything, he can call Altman, who Rada gives him the phone number of. But back at the apartment, someone else gets to the girls first. Next, Rada goes to see the coach and reveals he has the HSX he should have taken. The coach gets scared and finally confesses he did call the cops on Carla so that Rada would accept the sponsorship for the money. He had no choice because he's the only one of his fighters that could survive this particular stimulant. But Rada doesn't care about the excuses, and he kills the coach by injecting him with the HSX. Anna and his bodyguard arrive at the gym as well, and Anna threatens with hurting Rada's nieces if he doesn't cooperate. Rada tries to beat them up, but without the serum, the bodyguard easily overpowers him. He's allowed to call Maya Soda's place to confirm Anna's saying the truth and discovers Altman has them at gunpoint because she's been working with Anna all along. She was the one that gave Anna the idea of using the coach and Carla because she may be fond of Rita, but she likes money more. The night of the riot, she had been talking to the bodyguard to make the deal. As Anna takes Rita away, Maya Sodas calls his own house too to check on the girls. Altman orders Anouk to pick up the call and tell Maya Sodas to come by, so Anouk does exactly that, saying that Rita is already home and he wants to thank Maya Sodas for his help. After hanging up, Maya Sodas realizes that doesn't sound like something Rita would do and gets suspicious. He borrows a phone from a random civilian and checks the cameras at his home, discovering the girls at gunpoint. Maya Sodas calls Rita, but Anna won't allow him to answer. Then he calls the number Rita had given him but hangs up as soon as he sees Altman pick up. His only hope now is to call Boris, who wastes no time and borrows a gun from the other rebels. On their way to Donavia, Anna explains to Rita that they need him to be patient zero in order to stabilize the formula for general consumption. When they arrive at the office, the CEO makes Rita admit in front of the investors that he never took the HSX. In order to do a new demonstration, Rita is injected with HSX and will be fighting two of the bodyguards, who are genetically engineered clones of the most powerful cage fighters. Meanwhile, Maya Sodas returns to his apartment with Boris. They ring the bell, and Altman makes May check who it is through the peephole. Since she only sees Maya Sodas, Altman thinks it's safe, but as soon as she approaches the door, Boris shoots her. Afterward, Boris hacks into the Donavia's computers to appear in the middle of the meeting and show Rita that his nieces are safe. Now that there's nothing holding him back, Rita wastes no time and throws the CEO out of the window. The investors run out of the office, but Anna stays to order the bodyguards to capture Rita, reminding them she needs him alive. Such limitation means the bodyguards can't fight using their full power, which means a Rita full of HSX has no trouble beating them up. Afterward, he grabs the bodyguard's gun and calls Boris, who guides him on how to use the company's computer to release all the information about the disgusting experiments. People are starting to gather outside to look at the CEO's body, including Maya Sodas and Anouk, who came by to pick him up. However, Rita calls Anouk and tells her not to bother. As long as he's alive to be patient zero, they'll never leave his nieces alone. He hangs up after finally sending his regards to Maya Sodas, then he waits for the 5 minutes to be over, and once his body is normally human again, Rita uses the gun to end it all. Meanwhile, Boris finishes doing his hacking, and now screens all over France show the ways Donavia has been using and killing people. This is the spark society needs to kick off a serious movement against the corporate leadership of France, and riots all over the place begin to take place while using Rita's face as the symbol of their rebellion. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.